It's right at the moment when businesses started to realize how large language models are going to impact some of the AI solutions and machine learning solutions they already have at play.
I remember one of our managers who was in the crowd, and he asked us, he said, I have one question, and that's, how fast can we implement this? Because I want it. I think the first years, there was a saving of 1.8 million euros.
Wow. When you're doing 80,000 conversations a week, it matters, you know, and over the course of a year, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's not like you're going to turn it off tomorrow.
Get them in the room from the first moment you're starting to work on it.
Build and deploy sophisticated chat, voice, and multimodal applications for any purpose with NLX. NLX works seamlessly with any LLM and existing tech stack, freeing you to create, not configure. Trusted by individual builders and leading teams at the likes of Comcast, Saks Fifth Avenue, Toyota, and United Airlines, NLX helps you turn AI concepts into working conversational experiences with ease. If you want to learn more about how NLX can power your AI transformation, visit nlx.ai. That is nlx.ai. Shout out to NLX for presenting VUX World. The following is a conversation with Kellin Sjoerds and Rekkers, both of which are conversational AI engineers at Essent. That's the Netherlands' largest utilities organization and is run and owned by the E.ON Group. There you go. This conversation is a great conversation. We talk about the award-winning Bolt. It won the Agent Copilot Champion Award at the recent Cognigy Nexus event. It's an agent assist or agent copilot, and it's helping agents be more productive over the phone. It used to take on average 4.5 minutes for call center agents to find information using a variety of disparate systems and loads of knowledge scattered everywhere. And now with Bolt, it's saving them at least 60 seconds on every single call. Through that one solution alone, the company has managed to save 1.8 million euros, not through headcount reduction, but through not relying on or needing as much support from BPO providers. I've mentioned a number of times how AI is disruptive for BPO providers, and this is evidence of that actually coming to life. And so, excellent use case. We go through the whole process of how they went about identifying the need and the pain point. Great example of doing the right thing, first of all. And then how they went about designing the solution. Everything they did regarding content and everything they did regarding chunking, prompting, testing, deployment, rollout, management, the whole 9 yards. We cover end-to-end the exact process and even more of the benefits that are being found through the rollout and distribution of Bolt. We also discuss some really very novel use cases of LLMs in the chatbot world, which is one use case regarding disambiguation. And I'm not going to say too much about it now because I'm going to encourage you to stick around to the back end of the conversation because it is probably the most novel use case of LLMs in chatbots that I've come across to date and is a real great little nugget. If you've got an NLU-based chatbot, natural language understanding-based chatbot, and you want to improve it and use generative AI in a safe way to enhance the performance of your current NLU-based chatbot, then this disambiguation use case is definitely what you want to check out. Without further ado, this is Kellin and Ricky of Essent on VUX World. All right, Ricky, Kellin, welcome to VUX World, my friends. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm fine.
Yeah, same.
Good. Nice to see you both. Thank you for joining us. I learned an interesting fact today, which I shared with you guys, which is that Essent is part of the E.ON Group. Didn't know that, so there you go.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So maybe it'd be good to kick off and maybe so you could tell us a little bit about your kind of experience in conversational AI, a bit about Essent for those that perhaps don't know. I think we give a little bit of a clue away mentioning E.ON there, but yeah, maybe it'd be good to just begin with a little bit of a lay of the land, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are and what you do.
Cool. Shall I kick it off, Ricky?
Yeah, sure.
So my name is Kellin. I work as an AI engineer for Essent. Essent is the largest energy company in the Netherlands. So we provide homes with electricity and gas and, well, everything that comes with that. So we're also big on solar panels, and new energy forms is also a really big thing right now. As AI engineers, we are, well, first of all, we are responsible for our chatbot and voice bots for our customer service, that is. And well, second of all, we do a lot of external, well, not external, but we do a lot of extra AI projects, I would say, which also aid our our employees. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And about myself, well, actually, I did not do anything AI related in the past because I did a study in marketing. And afterwards, I started as a conversational designer for a big bank in the Netherlands called ABN AMRO. And then I switched to VGZ, which you cannot translate, but it's in health insurance in the Netherlands, where I also was a conversational designer. And then I came to Essent, and they gave me the opportunity to, I would say, up my skills and say goodbye to the conversational designer and start as an AI engineer.
Interesting. And is there much of a difference?
Yeah, I think so, because in my own opinion, my texts aren't spectacular, I would say. So I really like to leave it up to the real conversation designers. So I really like to work on more complex flows and work on, more AI solutions. So for me, it was a really good step to switch for a more content related job to what I do now. And I think that's different everywhere, because at my previous company, conversation designers did like everything, and here we have like sort of a divide. We divided it.
Interesting. And Ricky, you are also a conversational AI engineer, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Tell us about your journey here.
Yeah, this is actually my first job. So
nice.
I don't have any prior experience except for university and the education I had before that. But I have been busy with chatbots for I think 8 or 9 years during my studies. So it's not the first time I've actually been active within the chatbot community and doing things, building my own chatbots. I actually wrote a thesis on it as well. So it's not the first time, but I've been at Essent for 3 years now, doing what I do now. So yeah, it's not as large of an experience as Kellin, but very, very involved within chatbots itself. Very interested in where it's going. And like you asked, indeed, there's not much. Not much of a difference left anymore in the future for designers versus engineers. I think it's gonna sort of blend together as LLMs are more used, in my opinion.
And so does that mean that you would say that the conversation designer role has become more technical now then?
It is becoming more technical, in my opinion, and it will shift. It will change, I think, and they're going to be less of a copywriting role and more of a journey role, so that they're going to draw out customer journeys and do more of UX related stuff instead of hardcore content writing, which is now is the job of most of the designers.
And to add to that, all our designers are also very proficient in prompt engineering. So that's one of the steps they already took to work better with our AI solutions.
Yeah. And where did things begin then? So how long did you say you've been at Essent, Kellin?
I am at Essent a little over 2 years now.
Okay, and then when you started, or when either of you started there, was there any AI solutions in play at the time?
Well, when I started, Ricky was already at play, so he was already there. So he, I think 2 years ago we had a chatbot and a voice bot, but I would say it's more of an IVR. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ricky.
Yeah, that's correct.
And all the side projects, which we will soon talk about, for example, the disambiguation and Bold, which recently was at the Cognigy Awards, those are things that started the last 2 years.
Okay. So when you started, there was something in play, and how effective was it? So maybe, Ricky, you could share from. I mean, were you involved in that first implementation of things, Ricky, or was there something already up and running when you
It
joined?
was close. I mean, it was running for less than a year when I joined, I think.
Right.
So the chatbot was it was a side project, a breakthrough initiative, as they call it at the company. So they wanted to build a chatbot and automate some things from the customer service
Right.
level. But I mean, it was more like I said, more of an IVR. Choose this if you want to do this. Choose that if you want to do that. Mostly buttons as well, so you had to navigate the button menu everywhere. And as we as AI engineers came into the picture, because before that they only had designers, we became more NLU focused, so more on question recognition, less on button menus. And like I said, like last 2 years have been more of a shift towards actual AI solutions, towards LLMs, towards solutions that automate more stuff within the company. So yeah,
Nice. We've got a little friend joining us here. What was your cat's name again?
Athena.
Athena, that's it. Hello, Athena. It looks like Athena's along for the ride. That sounds good. So the use case is then predominantly at the beginning. It sounds as though it was predominantly a routing based use case, yeah, just to get people through to the right agents.
Correct.
Yeah, it also had some dialogues, but they were mostly, like I said, button menus where
Right.
you chose, yes, I'm a customer, yes, I'm not a customer, and then indeed, went to the right agent.
More
Right.
of a static chatbot, like old school chatbot.
Yeah. That makes sense. And so, where did you guys start then? So, you must have come in right at probably the right time, arguably speaking, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It's right around when ChatGPT launched. It's right at the moment when businesses started to realize or think about how large language models are going to impact or affect some of the AI solutions and machine learning solutions they already have at play. What's been the progress then over the last kind of couple of years? You alluded to some things there, which we'll talk about, the disambiguation, bolt, things like that. Where did those projects kind of start from? So when you started, Ricky, when you started, Kellin, you've got a solution in play already. Presumably it's doing, I don't know, either well or good to well or mediocre or whatever those solutions are. Large language models hit the scene. What's the journey been like over the last 2.5 years?
Wow, that's a good question. So little over 2 years ago, I think. No, not 2 years, 1.5 years ago. So at Essent, it's good to explain this. We're doing, and I'm probably gonna butcher this, but we're doing Go Gambas, which is like a possibility to have a look at another part of the company and just see what they're doing. So I visited the customer contact center on one of those days that I could like see how they do their talks and what their regular work looks like. And I did that because for me, chatbot is really affiliated to your customer service team. It's really a tight bond that. And the thing that I noticed that they took a long time to look up answers. So they had this I would say Wikipedia sort of system. It's called Guru, and they use this system to look up their answers to questions. And it's a really, really big database. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and you do not have like a Google-like search engine possibility. So you have to know what you have to look for certain keywords, or you have to know in which categories you have to look and to find your answer. So on average, they took I would say around 4 to 6 minutes, I believe, Ricky, to find an answer. That's an average. And that stood out to me. So I got talking with Ricky, and every quarter we get the option, or we get the possibility to innovate at our innovation sprint, IP sprint. And we got talking about it, and decided to host a hackathon for our entire team, for everyone to join. So also designers, but also the two other engineers we have in our team. and our cloud developer also joined. And that's actually the beginning of Bolt. So I would say that's, I think, our first major LLM use case that we developed in 2 days, actually. And at the end of the 2 days, we had a big presentation of what we could do with this. And well, I remember one of our managers who was like in the crowd, and he asked us, he said, I have one question, and that's, how fast can we implement this? Because I want it. And that changed a lot for us and our team, because then we got to work on something that we really liked building, and not that we don't like the usual chatbot, but this was of course new and fancy and unexplored ground, and that's where we started pioneering, I would say.
Good to add, by the way, the chatbot is a RAG-based chatbot, or RAG. So it uses a knowledge base. That was a technology that just came up at that time. It was just new in a sense for us as well. And our platform Cognigy implemented a way we could easily implement it as well within our existing chatbot platform. So we decided it was in the beta as well. But we just decided to take a look into it, what it could add to our customer service agents. So
nice. So that's good, because it came out of a real sort of need, which is good, rather than a finger in the air sort of like, we want to use AI, so we're going to just try something. You mentioned there that it was taking 4.5 minutes to find an answer, but the knowledge repository was quite vast. How did you go about that whole kind of process of creating that RAG solution when you have such a vast knowledge store? Did you do anything to whittle it down? Did you use everything that was there? Like, can you talk us through a little bit about the process of what you went through to go from that observation? It's taken a lot of time. There's a lot of content. We need to make it easier to find. What were the steps that you took to get there?
Yeah, first of all, we have a team that basically governs the knowledge base. So they weren't really set up for AI to use that knowledge base as well. So some of the content was really weirdly structured, or our agent, we basically fed it to our AI agent, and we saw that it was doing weird stuff with it. So there was conflicting information in it, and it also spit out conflicting information. That makes sense because, the content is also conflicting. So we went into conversations with them and actually got the mandate to make sure that the content is AI proof in that sense, or at least as AI proof as it can be, because this is obviously a huge database of knowledge. So that's one of the first steps to get them on board as well. Make sure that they know how to write certain content in a structure that AI can actually use. And from that, we use an external platform, like Kellin said, who we decided that it would be good to make sort of a cloud solution that extract that knowledge base every night, and then puts it into our chatbot platform at the evening, so that we have a structured knowledge base of all the knowledge articles that we actually have.
Nice.
And that the bot uses that every day. So the information is up to date, up to a day. Because we also know that we can also do emergency pulls, but generally that's fine for the customer service.
Yeah. That sounds good. I think that's the part that's often overlooked, is the amount of work you've got to do on content to get it, to get it kind of like, it's not even like AI ready, it's just cleaning it up to make it sensible, which in turn just makes it better for ingestion. But I think that's a bit that's quite overlooked. Were there any other lessons during that process? Content is one. I think it sounds as though you've got a good pipeline there where the content's updated, it's automatically ingested, so the management of things becomes kind of easier over time. Maybe we can get into a question about testing and quality assurance on that, because it might change regularly. But was there any other things that you did during that process that you think others that don't potentially have a RAG solution yet could learn from?
Well, I'm gonna put this out, but I think Ricky will be able to answer this better. But we did a lot of work on the chunking process, and there, I mean, like, So some knowledge articles are very long. So for example, we have a knowledge article about solar panels, which covers everything you want to know as an agent to advise a customer on solar panels. But to put it really simply, what Bolt does is you get a question from the agent. In this case, my customer wants to buy solar panels. What do I have to do? Just for an example. And it looks in all the knowledge base articles and it comes up with this like top 3 knowledge articles, and it uses those 3 articles to answer that question, right? That's the rag part. But what happens when you get a really long article, because our chunks cannot be longer than I think it's 2,000.
Yeah, 2,000
characters, but there are articles who are like 5 times this. So what you will get is you get 5 articles, which is actually the same article, but just different pieces of the article. And you get an answer only part of the article, right? So you get like an answer based on part 1, part 5, and part 6, just where you're missing the JIT here. And that took a lot of work. And I think Ricky did spectacular work there to get that working.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the hardest parts. Like I said, the large part is due to the content being unstructured. So what we decided to do first is make a sort of a smart chunking system so that it makes kind of divides the article in certain parts that make sense. Also doesn't cut the sentences into half when because that's usually what happens if you have a limit of 2,000. It just stops. That's not something that you want, so you need to sort of make that smart. But in the end, it boils down to content management. So the teams need to know how to structure the information right. So in the source of the article, there needs to be sort of a divide between certain parts in the article. So what we actually made sure that the team that builds those articles divides them themselves in a sense that in something that makes sense for the bot. So you sort of dividers, like this part is the part about the solar installation. This part is the part about questions about solar panels. And every FAQ, for example, every question answer is divided within those parts so that the article is smartly divided between different kind of chunks in that sense.
Right. So
that was actually the hardest part.
Yeah, it sounds intense. That. So am I correct in understanding that the requirement for more specific and accurate chunking has led to a new practice for your knowledge management people and content designers, which is they've got to then now structure their articles differently to try and keep within this 2,000 character chunk limit? Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
The article still can still be like 20,000 characters, but in the article there's like how do you say this? Like
paragraphs and
paragraphs. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, and there we use there's like help me out here, Ricky. How do we call this again? The
dividers.
The dividers, correct? Yeah. So these dividers. We recognize the dividers and then we know, okay, this is a new chunk, this is a new chunk, this is a new chunk, and then we get the smart chunking.
Interesting. That's interesting. So you have so you have all this content, there's some rewriting to be done to clean up bits that are conflicting. You've now put in this kind of like chunking process, and the designers, the content managers, etc., now understanding how they need to change what they do going forward. You've got this pipeline set up that automatically ingests new content when it's created. It sounds I'm inferring that, but I think that's what you mentioned.
Yeah,
did you?
correct.
Yeah. And then walk us through what it takes to kind of like, what do you do to test that, and to, when that person comes up to you and says, how fast can we go? How fast can we use this? You need to know that you're putting some accurate information in their hands. So what was that process like in terms of, testing, quality assurance and stuff like that? Was there much of that done?
we answered the question how fast we could do this immediately, but that was a pretty bold guess. but we made it. But what we did is we during the hackathon already, during the 2 days that we built the bot, we invited our colleagues or the 2 or 3 customer employees, so they're customer agents, and we just watched them interact with the bot. Like, how would you ask your questions? What would you want to know? Do you want? And they, for example, one of the really good ones we had is that they said like, okay, the answer is nice, but I would like the link to the article. So we built that for them, so they get an answer right now to their question for the customer, but they also get 3 links on which the answer is based, so they can still click on it and read the entire thing if they want to, or if they miss something. That's one of the things we added based on their testing. We also added the fact that they could give us feedback, so they can actually say this answer is wrong or it's not in the knowledge base, and it immediately gets sent to us, so we can look at that specific talk and see what went wrong. Doesn't happen a lot, but it sometimes does happen. Let's see, what else did we do? Well, of course, we break tested everything with the entire team. So the thing is that it's still, until recently, we put the temperature at 0 to get like, okay, you have a knowledge base and that's it. Like, you cannot say anything more than, or help any more than what's in the knowledge base. Actually, I think a month ago or maybe 2 months ago, Ricky, we were playing with that temperature a little bit to see if we can get better answers out of it. But we started out with 0. And what we did is, we picked one team of a supervisor who was really involved also in the development of Bolt. And her team got access first. Like, she was the only team who had access. And actually, she doesn't like me saying this, but she had not the best digits, like the best average handling time, like those kind of digits I'm talking about. And she became the best team. So then we knew we were on to something.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And so we rolled out Bolt like 2 teams at a time, and we saw the teams that got Bolt became faster, and we did the next team and the next team and the next team. So it was like a scheduled thing. So we did not massively release everything suddenly to everyone. We wanted to see what went wrong, and actually in the beginning we monitored Bolt every time, every day. There was someone monitoring all the conversation, and that's a really good thing to understand here, is that Bolt does not talk to our customers. He talks to our employees. So they are still responsible for the answer that they give to their client. And we try to withhold them from copy pasting answers. So we actually had to talk with every team, like a presentation. You can do this, you can do this. We don't do this. You cannot copy paste the answer. You have to read the answer and you type your own, or in the phone, of course, you have to make up your own answer. So there's no copy pasting here of just reading out loud what Bolt just said.
That's an interesting approach then. Basically trying to force some kind of retention from the information from the agents, not letting them copy and paste, is an interesting approach. I've never come across that before. So that's great. So the approach that you took there, then it sounds as though you can tell the designer in you coming out there, which is a lot of usability testing, a lot of kind of like validation from the end user, a staged rollout to mitigate the risk of a big bang type of approach, constant iteration, very close monitoring on day one, probably the first like few weeks or so, which is great. Any kind of considerations today? So for example, you were mentioning that you've got that pipeline that just if there's content updated, it automatically updates, and presumably if new articles are added, etc. Does that change the way in which you test and monitor and stuff like that, or is it just that gets caught as part of your general maintenance kind of cycles?
Well, the interesting part is that we also tested the new articles being added in the beginning, at least. And we also don't get me wrong, we still test frequently, but we have more of a monitoring task in that sense. So we do it once a week, once or 2-3 weeks, and it's more of see if you see anything weird kind of monitoring. The beginning was more like seeing everything. And the thing is, we didn't see much hallucinations. That was something that we saw a lot when we were testing in the beginning, but we sort of fine-tuned our prompt. And we also upgraded in the meantime. There's also something that I want to highlight. In the beginning, of course, we saw a little bit more hallucinations or weird reactions from the large language model, but it was mainly due to it being GPT 3.5 Turbo. What we saw when we upgraded models to 4 and 4.0 Mini is that it drastically improved in answers and hallucination rate. So yeah, but it's also due to the prompt fine tuning, which we did extensively. The thing that I cannot not say enough is that you need to test. I mean, the testing is gut wrenching, like 2 weeks nonstop testing the LLM for if it says anything weird, but it's necessary. I mean, you're putting something out there that customer services relies on. So it's, yeah.
And what also really helped us in the testing is that we made sure that at least the supervisors from the teams were like our ambassadors. So they were really happy with Bolt. They really looked forward to. We had actually had emails from supervisors like, can we be the next team to be hooked up on Bolt? Actually now our customer advisors who are handling business clients are also on Bolt right now, and they had to wait the longest, but so we have about 200 to 300 agents every day who talk to Bolt. So that's a lot of testing as well. And they have a button where they can say something went wrong. It's like really a small thing. After every answer, they can just click it. So, well, we got our testers already right there for a bit.
Yeah.
I think the key here for me was that we took our time, making this available to everyone, and we took our time making sure that they were well educated on what they were working with and how to use it.
Very good. That's good. So you kind of alluded to some of the results there. You mentioned that initially when you first went out and you did that call listening exercise, they were taking people 4.5 minutes to find answers. Presumably that was the goal behind this, was to decrease that time and to make that process faster. You mentioned there that one of your kind of like more average agents became a really high performing agent. What were the outcomes from doing this piece of work? Did that 4.5 minutes come down? Were there any other benefits that you've seen?
Yes, it did. Yeah, so for the digits here, so recently we won a Cognigy award, and there was a big banner saying that we saved a bunch of money. So I can safely repeat this because it's already out in the world. And I think the first years there was a saving of 1.8 million euros.
Wow.
And that's not in costs for our employees who work for us, but that's in costs for employees we had to hire extra to make sure that we could handle all the calls and chats, right? So they're external people. That's one thing. And the other thing is that on average, there were minutes of every conversation. We scaved off like a couple of minutes. Which made sure that our employees, first of all, could help, of course, more customers. But, and this is a bit of a marketing answer, but it is the truth. And I heard it from several employees as well, because they could find the answer more. They can listen to what the customer says. And they're not like, oh, it's about solar panels. Let's start looking already while the customer is still talking. You can finish the conversation and say, okay, 1 second, I'm looking it up. Within a second, you have the answer. You can start talking to the customer again. So they have way more time to, I would say correctly answer the question as well. So not factually correct only, but also in a correct way, answer the question, and well, be with the customer the entire conversation and not having to put someone on hold or well, that sort of stuff.
And also it increased the first time right, which is a metric we also use. So the first time that we help the customer in the first time they contact us for a problem, that also increased by some margin. I'm not sure how much, but it was significant for us. And I'm not sure what the number was, but it was significant for the customer service.
Nice. That's wicked. That's really good results. That, I mean, considering that those savings are crazy compared to how much it would have cost to actually implement in the first place. I'm not saying it wasn't a big effort, because it obviously was, but I mean, to get that kind of impact is unbelievable. Yeah, and I think it's a good kind of like message to those that are also looking at this kind of stuff. I mean, I always get excited by, first of all, stuff that's rooted in value. And I think that this thing is kind of like the areas that have frustrated me in recent years is where a lot of contact center companies will talk about like summarization and disposition code generation. It's all stuff that's like, it's nice because it shortens that sort of like post call interaction and stuff like that. But for me, it always leaves a lot on the table because it's like, it doesn't really solve the big problem. Whereas the big problems are things like what you mentioned, agents spending 4.5 minutes on a call, and also the customer facing interaction elements where the customer just wants their problem solved. It should be something that they can do on their own, but they can't for whatever reason. And, so those are the two things that kind of excite me, is the front end automation and the back end real kind of tangible stuff that's going to make a real difference. So I think that's a great story. You guys also mentioned that this disambiguation use case, which I'm very interested in because it's a very novel use of LLMs in the chatbot context. Maybe we could start with confirming this is part of the initial chatbot that you were talking about at the beginning, which is more of an NLU based kind of like button based chatbot. It was a way of enhancing that. Is that correct? Can you give us the lay of the land in terms of where this initiative started?
Yeah. So, okay, we have to track back a bit. So what we did 2 years ago is when our NLU did not understand the question or did not match an intent, actually, it just said like, okay, I don't understand what you're saying. And here's a top 3 of most hit intents. Pick one if it's the right one, or go to an employee. So after like 2 years ago, we altered this and we altered the top 3 intents to match the top 3 NLU results. So if you say something vaguely, but our NLU is not certain enough to hit the right intent, it will give you the top 3 based on the top 3 NLU hits.
So just before you move on, the first version, to confirm, was just giving you the top 3 intents globally, the top 3 hit intents.
Correct.
And you then enhance that to give you the top 3 closest matched intents that were below your threshold at the time.
Correct.
Okay, right.
So we had that for a long time. And actually, I think last year it was that most of our handovers are just, of course, there's also people who immediately ask for an employee, which still happens, of course. And you cannot do a lot about that. We tried, but that's hard because you do not want to, if someone wants to talk to an employee, you don't want to stand in their way. But a lot of handover to live agents was also because we did not understand the question and those top 3 intents did not really cover it, right? So what we did is we built what we would like to call disambiguation. And what we did is we used a prompt where we stated like, okay, the customer asked you a question, it's ambiguous, we are not sure what it's about. Pose a question, an open question about what the customer said, and try to figure out what he or she is talking about. Of course, there were some iterations on this because the first time it went horribly, but in the end, it worked really well. So one of the, I think, best examples here is that we had a customer who said very specifically, my lights are not, I cannot turn my lights on, and I'm living in this village, right? So our NLU was like, we're not sure what you're talking about. But there was, of course, a power outage. But the LLM could see could read between the lines what was going on. So you cannot turn your lights on. Well, you're probably experiencing a power outage. But that sentence, I cannot turn my lights on, was not part of our NLU because it conflicted with way too much other intents that we have about light and electricity, right? Mm-hmm. So the question the customer got from our disambiguation is, hey, you're in this village and you are experiencing that your lights cannot be turned on. Are you experiencing a power outage? And the customer said, yes, I'm experiencing a power outage. And what we do then is that the second time we prompt the employee, that second answer gets sent back to the NLU, and we try to match that to an intent again. So it's a really safe solution where our customers cannot keep talking to the LLM. They just get there because their question is not clear enough. And then we send them back to the NLU.
Very good. What would happen if, in response to that question, they say, I can't turn my lights on? The LLM response to disambiguate says, it sounds like you've got a power outage. Is that correct? What happens if they just say yes?
Yeah, that's one of the the learnings here, because that happened a lot. So right now we pose an open question. So we say, are you experiencing a power outage, or, for example, in this case, or did your light bulbs break? I'm not sure what the answer was. It wasn't perfect, but the customer got prompted to give an answer longer than yes or no, because in the beginning we had a lot of yes and no, and then it would fail. But so if the customer answers to the disambiguation and the answer is still not recognized, they will go to an employee right away, and they will not notice, because we will say, this question we rather answer by an employee, and we'll send them to an employee. So it's not that we keep them in that loop.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably iterate that even further, couldn't you? And say that in the instances where you get a yes or no response, or a yes response predominantly, you then have the LLM just summarize that in like 3 or 5 words or whatever, and then send that to the NLU, see if that can pick it up or whatever. But that's an interesting use case, that. So how do you determine when to bring in the LLM? Is it based on confidence thresholds? Something doesn't hit your confidence threshold sufficiently, you'll then devolve it. Is that correct?
I'll pass this one to Ricky, but yes, it's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's correct. We mainly rely on the NLU in that part. We sort of decided against like fully developing a large language model chatbot, mainly because that's, of course, I mean, you can do that, but we know the failures in the world. We've seen them all on LinkedIn. And we also know that it's more of a safe approach towards using LLMs right now. So yeah, we kind of rely on the NLU for a bit. And we also make a hybrid approach in that sense. Like, we use LLMs in specific ways now to actually power a chatbot up in that sense. We also have lots of more ideas, and we even started recently with just answering questions for certain subjects. In this case, e-mobility, so more of a charging stations, for example. When the NLU recognizes that it's about a charging station or electric cars, then it sends it to that flow, which the LLM has a role. So we never blindly give it to the LLM in that sense.
Yeah. That's interesting. So it's an NLU chatbot. Customer query comes in. The NLU isn't entirely sure what to do with it. It's got a suspicion it might be one of these 3 things. It devolves down to the LLM, and then your prompt to the LLM is something like, this is ambiguous. We don't really know what it is. Have a conversation with the customer to figure out what's going on. and
Right.
then the LLM will interject, get the next utterance, send that utterance to the NLU, figure out if it can classify it. If it can, it's away. If it doesn't, it escalates.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. And the main part is for most customers, they come into the chatbot and they say, or for a lot of customers, they just say, "I have a question." That's really ambiguous. Like, yeah, we know you have a question.
But the disambiguation works really well for those customers because the LLM would say like, okay, you have a question, bring it on. What's your question? And then someone, of course, will post their question. And I believe out of the top of my mind is that we said that like the threshold for NLU matching is like about 60, I believe, 60%. So everything below 60% certainty will go to, well, not to the disambiguation, but go to the fallback. And if it scores below, I believe, 30%, it will go to the disambiguation, because we did a test on this and we saw that everything between 30 and 60%, the NLU is so close that the buttons based on the NLU are better than reprompting with the LLM.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Yeah. So you're only using the LLM where the ultimate confidence threshold is less than 30.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. That's great. And what do you have any kind of data on the effectiveness of it when it gets to that point?
Yeah, we did. We did a comparison for 2 months previous to the disambiguation. I just looked it up, by the way. That's why my screen lit up. Is that it's 12%, so it's not like mind blowing here, but
yeah.
The difference was 12%. So we had a decrease of 12% of handover immediately because of the not understanding part in the chatbot, right? So normally someone would get the buttons and they will then escalate to someone because the buttons did not match what they were actually asking. And we still have people who, well, we don't understand or who are not able to pose the question correctly to match with the NLU. And if we compared the 2 months, so 2 months prior and the 2 months that we released the disambiguation, there was a 12% decrease in people who escalated to an employee, and then specifically in the situation that I just described. So it's not 12% of all handovers or all escalations to an employee, but only when they post a question we did not recognize. We have a how do you say this? A complete goal, Ricky?
Yeah, sort of analytics.
Tracking analytics on this. So we only looked at those customers who asked the question, and of those customers, we had 12% less escalation to an employee.
Yeah, that's still not bad. I mean, for something that, probably didn't take a tremendous amount of effort, I think the value of that is it's in the ingenuity of thinking about and imagining the use case. It's a great use case because NLU systems are genuinely pretty good. If they're well trained, NLU systems are pretty good. The challenge with them is that when they get to a certain size, they start to be less effective because there's more conflicts. So, part of the, I think, thing that companies are wrestling with at the moment is we don't really want to throw away our NLU because it's working. When it works okay, but it doesn't work perfectly. So how do we make it better? And I think that, we had Mark Worden on from NatWest in recent months, and he shared a case study where, similar to you, they've got a percentage of things that they don't classify. They were using the same disambiguation menu that you throw up, which is the nearest 3 intents. And instead they replaced that with an option to opt in to use a RAG solution. And they found something akin to, it was like a 34% increase in customers that were served compared to the disambiguation menu. So it's like, yeah, it's maybe it's not like it doesn't sound like a world beating number, but when you're doing 80,000 conversations a week, It matters, and over the course of a year. And don't forget, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's not like you're going to turn it off tomorrow. This is something that will exist for as long as you have the chatbot running. So it pays off, it keeps paying off, and it will continue to pay off basically forever until you change something. So it's kind of like marginal gain. And this isn't even a marginal gain. 12% is not bad, but like that kind of concept of continuous improvement, continuously trying to optimize and continuously improving it is kind of what it's all about. So I think that definitely there's a lot of space for generative AI to enhance some of those existing NLU solutions, because not every company is game for an end-to-end generative solution today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's also something that we don't want to take the risk of that. We have, like Kellin said in the beginning, we're the largest energy supplier in the Netherlands, so we have a lot to lose in terms of PR. So yeah, we wanted to make sure that we still use the old NLU and make sure that it's more of a safe use case in that sense. And we still have a lot of ideas how we can superpower our NLU model. We also know that it's already pretty good, but when it doesn't, you can do a lot about it with LLMs. You don't have to fully rely on them.
Yeah, 100%. Is that been part of your kind of, being the biggest utility provider in the Netherlands, being part of a broader E.ON Group, there's a lot at stake reputationally, you've got a lot of customers. How is it for you in terms of the process that you've got to go through to get some of this generative AI stuff live? Like some companies have complete blanket bans on it, some are kind of more aggressive. Like, what's the process been like for you to get this stuff out the door and get it into production? Did you have to hop over any hoops? Did you have to satisfy any kind of demands or whatever? Like, talk us through the process you had to go through to start using this stuff.
Yeah, I'll take that question because I did it for
Right.
a team. So we had a legal and compliancy department, and we had to sit down with them and really explain what we were actually doing, because a lot of the people in a company, no credit to them, they're really good in their field, but they don't know much about AI or LLMs in that sense. We had to really tell them exactly what we were doing and what the compliancy risks were, because there were compliancy risks, of course. You're actually distributing your data to an external provider, which a lot of people think, and they also thought that provider trains their models on your data, which was really out of the question, of course. So we had the luck that we had a really cool compliancy department person that guided us within that process. So we did a lot of deep DPS. I don't know if that's whole sense. It's a privacy assessment in our organization that actually we just sit with a couple of people in the room and you for a couple of hours and you decide whether there are a lot of risks or we can mitigate those risks. In the end, we drafted a document with some fallbacks. We decided them, like we said in the beginning, we do a lot of monitoring on our cases. So that's something that we actually put on paper. And as long as that's in place, then we were allowed to go ahead. They see the value of it more than the negative parts in media, because there are a lot of things that on LinkedIn or in media that get said about AI, but in the end, it's more about efficiency, in my opinion. You need to kind of separate the fear of AI from the reality, which is just a helpful tool if you put it right.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think and it's good that the organisation is aligned in that fact. I think that there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions I've observed over the last kind of 18 months or so, and it's just being like, nope, we're not touching it, we're not using it, and it's just lack of understanding more than anything else. So I think that to have a group of people on your side who are open to the conversation, willing for you to educate them, pulling in the same direction in terms of what the business is trying to accomplish is good, because it means that you're going to use it responsibly. You're not going to use it irresponsibly. I mean, it's not as if you're going to kind of like, it's not as if you're going to try and do something nefarious with it. Like everyone's trying to do the right thing with it. So it's kind of like, yeah. I mean, what's your kind of I don't know, I suppose, advice for businesses in a similar situation to you, or where you were perhaps, like maybe they've got a chatbot already, maybe they don't, they're exploring, they're hearing the stuff on LinkedIn that you've been talking about in terms of AI, they feel like they should be doing something, they're not quite sure. Like, what's your advice for those companies and teams that are considering this
Honestly,
stuff.
on the compliancy part, just make sure you have the right people within the compliancy department that are actually interested or want to know more about it. Do knowledge sessions about what you're actually doing, and then just get them in the room. Get them in the room from the first moment that you're starting to work on it. Because in the hackathon, we already had conversations with our compliance and legal department for, hey, we are planning on doing this. Are we allowed to go ahead with this? Which you shouldn't just get them on board at the end when you want to put it live, because that's too late. The process can take a while. You want to make sure that they really know what you're doing, because you don't want to, you want to better safe than sorry in that sense. So that's my advice. Just get them on board as quick as possible. Make sure you're on the same level. Just advise them in what's correct, because you're the expert. Usually, the AI engineer is the expert in that sense. We know what hallucinations are. We can explain it to them in terms they understand. Just make sure you have an expert that does these things, not some business person or a PO that knows a little bit about it, but just make sure that you have an expert that does this with the compliance department.
Would you do anything differently if you were to do it again? The journey you've been on with Essent, is there anything you would change?
Good question. It's always weird to say you wouldn't, because there's always something that could go better. But I think I would have taken more time to experiment with the prompt, because it took a long time, because we for Bolt, we had a prompt and it worked, and we did not touch it for like a year. And then after a year, we're like, it may be a bit outdated. So we changed it and made it better, right? So I think we took a little, we didn't take enough time to build the prompt. I think we rushed it a bit. And
Ricky,
to add to
go on.
what you just asked before, I'm not sure if that was also a question for me, but what I also think is really important is that what we did is we started small. So we started with relatively very safe cases to work on, right? So nothing that goes to a customer directly, but always like within, like to first show what we can do, and then. So Ricky just talked about e-mobility, which is our first case who actually talks to customers. And we also picked a case which is not asked a lot about, right? So there's not a lot of questions about it. And the questions that are about it, then we can monitor very easily. So start small and then make people used to it and ease them into it a bit before you.
Good call. That's good advice. Ricky, former question to you. Is there anything you would change if you were to do it again?
Honestly, I'm going to answer no. It was more of a perfect storm from the beginning, in my opinion. If anything, I would just make sure I have the ideas that I have now, had it back in the day, so we could just do more. But that's maybe too ambitious.
Maybe, Ricky, we should have, I'm now thinking about it, we should have had conversations with the database team or the knowledge base earlier. So because we build it entirely and then we figured out, wait, your content is not up to date. So we should have involved them in the process even earlier. I think that's I think the best answer I can come up with.
Yeah, that's also something. We did the compliance legal part in the beginning, but we kind of took the content for what it was and tried to work with it. But we should have addressed it by the root issue, which would be the content. Yeah.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. Wicked. Well, Ricky, Kellin, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really, really good conversation. I think those two use cases you shared are absolutely brilliant. I think Bolt is a great example of how if you focus on the problem that you've discovered and do everything you can to solve that problem, AI can find a perfect place there. And I think the users can accept it and they love it and it's really productive. The savings you've got there, over €1 million in savings, or 1.8 or whatever it was, are fantastic results. And I think these kind of like smaller experimentations with generative AI in a safe kind of environment is really where I think you find a lot of value. It's that marginal gains thing I mentioned before. Like if you can get more juice out of your NLU, if you can get a little bit more output from your kind of goal completions, and you're building experience, you're building maturity, and you're ultimately providing better experiences. So two great stories there. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really good.
Yeah, no problem.
Nice one.
Thank you very much for having us. No,
it's an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. We'll do this again sometime, hopefully. Maybe when those ideas you have come to fruition, we'll do a part 2, and we'll see what's going on there. Yeah. Nice one. Thank you all for tuning in. Absolute pleasure as always. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks now. Bye.